Morning and welcome to the Homegrown Lecture Series. I'm Paul Winsky with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, and this is the first talk in our Homegrown series that will be offered during the month of May. Today I will be covering 10 annuals for the Houston heat. On the 14th, Mr. Shannon Dietz will be covering backyard poultry. On the 21st, Kim Perry will cover gardening in small spaces. And last but not least, on May 28th, Brandy Keller will be talking about attracting the right wildlife to your garden. I'm glad you could join us and sit back and we will get started on the Homegrown series, 10 annuals for the Houston heat. So, when we talk about annuals, any type of planting, we have to always account for cultural needs, whether it's sun, shade. Make sure you take into account moisture requirements. Is it a dry area? Is it an excessively wet area? So make sure you are cognizant of that. With regard to annuals, the form is anywhere, any type of form that you really could use or that you can think of. Spreading, upright, arching, rounded. So if you need something that you have a bed that has a little bit of height and you have some stonework, there's plants out there that will cascade or spread or arch that will soften that look. Height, again, in all cases, we've got low, medium, and tall. So it makes it easy for you as a homeowner to plant your beds and be able to step them down from low growing plants up front, medium plants towards the center of the bed, and the taller plants in the back. And you always want to think about seasonal interest. Sometimes it's not always about the flowers, it's about the foliage, like in the case of coleus or alternanthera. And it could also be fruit, as in the ornamental peppers, or some people are even starting to incorporate edibles into their landscape. So, first plant to talk about, Angelonia, great plant for the heat. Flowers all through the summer, has a nice upright habit. You can see the color range is purples, pinks, lavenders, very upright habit. There is a cascading form out there also. In most cases, these are about 12 to 14 inches tall and probably about 10 to 12 inches wide. This is Angelonia serenita, which is one of the shorter, more compact varieties. Next ones are caladiums. Caladiums do extremely well in our, quote, tropical-like climate. There are two forms, the fancy leaf, which prefers the shade, and the strap leaf, which prefers the full sun. You can see the fancy leaf here is a much taller variety in the shade, and the strap variety here, which is peppermint, is going to be much more compact growth habit in the full sun. This is a trial that we did several years back, and this was in full sun, so we had both straps and fancy leaves in there, and it was surprising to me that the fancy leaves performed well in the full sun, but their color was a bit off. It wasn't as vibrant, probably because of the high light intensity of growing in the full sun. Coleus, great plants. You can use them in the landscape. There's all forms out there, but they add a very unique color and texture to the landscape. You can see how these 5 varieties work well off of each other. They perform extremely well. One of the things, this one here is redhead. The one thing I like about it, it doesn't set flower. So if you're a landscaper or you just want to minimize your greenhouse maintenance, a lot of these varieties are not setting seed. The seed varieties are the ones that are going to set their flowers, where the ones that are produced from unrooted cuttings are not going to produce them. But here's a up close, just to give you the color, the look, the texture that these provide, and gives you a lot of options, whether in the landscape or if you're using them in combination planters. Portulaca, a great low growing ground cover type annual. Very hot, vibrant colors, make sure this is in the full sun. One of my pet peeves is many garden centers will take this, and it's mostly the boxes, but they will take this plant and they will put it in the shade. The unfortunate thing then is the flowers never open. It needs that full sunlight for them to open, and when they are in full sun, those flowers are wide open. The flowers almost like single roses with the petals, the nice anthers set above it. But again, once these are established, they're very drought tolerant, so they don't need a lot of water. If you've got a rock garden and you want to soften some of the lines, these will cascade over the edge of the bed. So a very good annual to use through our summer months. Next up, Lantana. Colors are all over on this. There's been a lot of good breeding in Lantana. The one thing I like is in most of these, the initial flowers open one color and then they will change to a different color as they mature. So you get a nice color effect over the entire plant. Bandito is one that's very tight and compact, probably 8 inches by 8 inches, so it's not going to be very tall. And then you've got the landscape ones that are going to get maybe about 2 feet tall to about 3 to 4 feet wide. So if you've got a large area to cover, you can come in with some of these large ones. They attract pollinators, they attract butterflies, they attract beneficial insects. So through the heat of the summer on into October, these plants will continue to bloom and are very hardy. Marigold, this is Tagetes erecta. This is the African marigold. So this is the varieties that you'll see have the larger flower. And these are probably going to top out at about 12 to 14 inches depending on the series. And then we also have the French marigold type, which is Tagetes petula. Much more compact, mounded habit, and you can see the flower production over the entire plant. Again, marigolds, we think of marigolds, we'll think of oranges, yellows, golds, in that color range. So they perform extremely well down here through our summer. Pentas are great for attracting butterflies. Very good color selection. The clusters of these star-shaped flowers throughout the summer is nonstop. The butterflies love them. As the hummingbirds come through, they will work them because there is nectar down in there. And then this is another one that there has been a lot of breeding done where we've got dwarf varieties that are about 6 to 8 inches tall on up to taller varieties where you can almost use them as a cut flower, and now there are even cascading types that are coming out. So a lot of good genetics on Pentas. It's one that you can't go wrong with if you've got a full sun area and you want that look, that snowball type cluster of star-shaped flowers. Sunflower is a can't miss, and there's a lot of differences now in sunflower. So you can have these single flowered dwarf varieties on up to the cut flower varieties or the large varieties that could be 6 to 8 feet tall. One of the unique varieties that's out there now is called Sunfinity, and this is a non-stop bloomer. So each time as new branches develop, we get more flowers. And this in the landscape will get about 3 to 4 feet tall. So it is going to be a large plant, a mounded type habit with just lots of sunflowers throughout the season. So if you see that, you might want to give it a shot in the garden to see how well it performs for you. And last but not least, zinnias. Again, great color forms, great colors, great flower forms, great habits. This is more of the compact. This is, I believe, Zahara. The thing I like about these compact ones is you don't have to deadhead them. The new growth comes up. The old flowers get covered over. They bury their dead. You don't have to worry about it. And they keep these nice, compact, rounded habits. Here's one that's similar to the Zahara in its habit. Great colors. It's an all-American selection. And then you have some of the larger varieties or taller varieties that you can use as a cut flower. So you get dual purpose. You can enjoy it indoors, or you can bring it, or you can enjoy it outdoors, or also bring it indoors. So Zinnia, very versatile. You can use it in the front of the bed. You can use it in the back of the bed. And there's some intermediate varieties that you can use towards the middle. So lots of diversity, lots of options out there. And last but not least, I really like Vinca. Catharanthus roseus. This is the Cora series. This is also a Texas superstar. These plants perform extremely well in the heat. The Coras have been bred to be resistant to aerial Phytophthora. The one thing I would say is be on the lookout. I'm already starting to see it. There is a improved series for Cora called Cora XDR or XDR Cora, which is extra disease resistant. So it's resistant to multiple strains of aerial Phytophthora, which makes that plant even hardier and less disease prone. So there are upright forms and also cascading forms of the Cora series. So they perform extremely well. Here's a variety that we looked at in our trials. This is an All-American selection, and very large flowers, performed very well for us. I was really happy with it. That eye just really jumped out, popped out at you. This is a variety that I saw at the California trials 2 years ago. The variety or the series name is called Tattoo, and it's got a unique dark eye, which is really different. Normally, we're used to seeing these white eyes. So with that dark eye, it gives you a whole different look. The breeder did mention that if you see the tattoos, if you purchase them, they recommended growing them in containers and not using them in the landscape because it doesn't have the disease tolerance, but it will perform well for you in containers. So that is it for my top 10. But hey, I couldn't stop at 10. So wait, there's more. Hang in there. Let's talk about some Texas Superstars. Now, so the Texas Superstar program's been around for a while. These plants are tested throughout the state of Texas. There are 4 testing sites. So East Texas, up in Lubbock, College Station, and over in San Antonio are the 4 primary sites. And then as they start to make their way through the evaluation, plants are given to the horticulture agents in the various counties, and we bring them into our counties and grow them out to see how they perform for us. So I'm just going to touch on a couple perennials here now that perform extremely well through the heat of the summer. So the first is Hibiscus flare. A very large flower, probably at least 9 to 10 inches across. This shrub is going to get, or this perennial will get big, at least 6 to 8 feet. And it just produces throughout the heat of the summer nonstop. Flare is a nice deep red color that you can't miss when it is in bloom. Its sister is pink flare, and so as you can see the height of this plant, and you can see the flower production on it. Flowers all over the plant. The flowers are only open for one day, and they're open basically when they are in the full sun. So towards the end of the day, they will start to close up. So if you're working during the week, get up and enjoy them on the weekend, because sometimes if you work late, you may miss the show. But these flowers do put on a show. So there's pink flare. And the last sister on this is peppermint flare. So a very unique white with a fuchsia type flecking. Fuchsia eye with flecking throughout the petals. So it's a different look for these hardy hibiscus that we normally do not see. The next is Henry Duelberg Salvia. This is a Salvia farinacea. This was found by Greg Grant, and this is just nonstop. Butterflies love it. The hummingbirds, beneficial insects. This plant will get big, so it's going to be used towards the back of the border. It needs space to grow, so this is going to get about at least 4 feet tall and probably wider than tall, maybe 4 to 6 feet. It could stand to be sheared throughout the season, which it will help it. to keep the bloom production high. So I do recommend giving it a shear when it starts to look a little rough through the middle of the summer, and then within 3 to 4 weeks you'll have new flower production again. Henry Duelberg also had a wife, Augusta, and this is her plant. So Augusta Duelberg is the white form. So again, flower production, you can see the size of that plant in early spring. You can see the flower production and then these nice white flower spikes throughout the entire summer period. Again, another one that could use a shearing midway through just to give it a time to catch its breath because it just constantly wants to bloom. So those are some of the Texas superstars. I want to thank you for joining us. And I do want to remind you again that first, thank you for joining us on the Homegrown series, and then remind you next week, Mr. Shannon Dietz will be on board to talk about backyard poultry. Thank you and have a great day.